Oh my gosh, buy it. Buy it quickly. It's dying. It's dying. You won't be able to get it soon. Buy it now! Alright, enough of that over dramatization. Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time today. And this was a topic that I wasn't going to comment on, even though it is something that is near and dear to my heart. I figured that, honestly, with all the biggest media YouTube channels out there already commenting on it, like, what on earth was I going to add to the conversation? I mean, I know I have a media channel, but I've kind of given up talking about media news in general. I just use that channel to basically do unboxings of unique things like this. And I figure, you know what, I think if people want to watch news on this type of stuff, they're going to watch films at home or go to the digital bits or something of that nature. And after I watched enough of these videos, I definitely realized I did want to say something about this. And people have requested this video, and some have indirectly asked for it by going like, hey, nerd. So what's going on? Well, the big news is that Best Buy has announced that they will be ceasing selling physical media in 2024, at least when it comes to the movies and music side of things. Apparently video games are a separate issue altogether, and you know, that makes a lot of sense because physical video games lead into sales of systems like the Xbox and PS5, which lead to sales of accessories and games and subscription cards. Admittingly, movies don't sell as many Blu-ray or DVD players. I don't even know if Best Buy sells them anymore. I know there's a lot of online stores that sell players, and most people these days, though, their physical media player is the PS5 or the Xbox Series X if they bother to get the version with the disc drive. Otherwise, I don't see people buying Blu-ray players anymore. So it makes sense that Best Buy would no longer want to sell these in the store, especially since even at the height of the popularity of these discs, these have always been razor thin margin items. When I worked at Fry's, we had a Fry's discount that was the business stock price, where basically as long as you paid 5% more than what the store was paying for the item, that's what you would pay. And you want to know what the savings for most of these were? 30 cents, sometimes $1. And if the movie was on sale for $15, well then you would have paid more if you tried to use your discount on it anyway. So that goes to show that even though movies were a hot seller for several years, it was never especially profitable for stores. Now, sure, if you sold 10,000 Harry Potter DVDs at 34 cents a profit, you know, that's not a terrible chunk of change, but Harry Potter was basically being considered a loss leader to get you into the store. Same thing with Lord of the Rings and Matrix and everything else. So once the discs started selling less, and of course they were going to dump them, and it seems like Best Buy is going to be switching to appliances and TVs as their bread and butter going forward. And by the way, if there is anyone that should be concerned about that, it's the Best Buy shareholders, because just ask Sears or Maytag. There's a lot of companies that went under just because they sold appliances. That is not an especially stable business to be in right now, even though ironically everyone needs them. So I'm not surprised that Best Buy and soon Target will be getting rid of these, you know, discs, because they never made that much money and less people are buying them. Now, does that mean that they're going to be dead, that they're not going to be around for a while? And the answer is no. And I want to highlight an example of why I believe that is. You know how Barnes & Noble has kind of experienced a resurgence in popularity? People are going there. They have their new Barnes & Noble premium card. They kind of came back, and for a while we were like, yeah, Barnes & Noble, they're on the way out. They are going to die. We saw Walden Books go under. We saw Border Books go under. We saw mom and pop bookshops go under because not only could Amazon sell the book cheaper, but with the Kindle market, you could buy the books cheaper still. This was what was going to kill Barnes & Noble. It was killing all the other major chain stores. So why didn't it happen? Well, it didn't happen because of a very simple reason. At the end of the day, people still like to buy books. There is a market for books, for physical books, especially bookstores that have like a coffee stand where they can read while they drink coffee. And the thing is, as the competition went out of business, all those people who used to shop at those stores started going to Barnes & Noble. And then, of course, Barnes & Noble was bought out by a new guy who understood how to sell books, and they have revamped their stores. They put more investments into their own ebook, which was the Nook, and I have a Nook. I don't have a Kindle, so I read my ebooks on a Nook. And they basically cater to this niche audience, but now they're the only game in town. Toys R Us is even going to be coming back because as the market found out, well, here's the thing. People like toy stores. They didn't want to buy all their toys on Amazon. Sometimes they want to go into the store and actually look. And keep in mind, Toys R Us was like a unique situation where it's not that they themselves were a failing business model. It is that they were bought by a hedge fund and saddled with a lot of debt, and it didn't matter how successful they were, they could never repay that debt. And this same hedge company did the same thing with KB Toys. But now, being outside of that, Toys R Us is coming back. They've already opened a couple locations, as well as opened up in some Macy's stores. And guess what? They seem to be doing very well because now they are going to be soon the only game in town, and people still want to buy toys. In the case of physical media, we're in some ways living in a golden age of physical media. Aside from the great collector sets and the boutique labels who are really stepping up their game in absence of the major studios, I think we will see physical media survive. It's just not going to be everywhere, because at the same time that Best Buy was announcing that they were going to be discontinuing selling physical media, and as Target clearly starts ramping up not selling physical media anymore, Wal-Mart announced that they were actually going to be investing more in physical media because, yeah, look, maybe right now it's not a huge seller for them, but if all these other major chains are going to stop selling it, well, people are going to buy it from somewhere, so they're going to go for Walmart. And by the way, Walmart is also the home of that $1,500 Disney set, so clearly they see value to sell such an item at their store, at least online. So the discs are still going to be available, they just might only be available at certain places. Oh yeah, and also Barnes & Noble announced that they would continue to carry physical media because, well, people still want physical media, and Barnes & Noble is going to be one of the few places to get it going forward, so it might actually prove to be a little bit of a boost for them, if you will. Another thing to keep in mind is that it was never physical media that was the seller. It was always certain titles, certain movies, certain TV shows. There are tons of DVDs and Blu-rays that never sold because people never wanted to buy them anyway. But if you give people the right title, they will show up. Case in point, as Best Buy is making all this noise about how they are no longer going to be selling physical media, we got an announcement that Oppenheimer is coming to 4K in November. I think November 21st, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Titanic is coming to 4K in a standard and collectible edition. And while we were eating dinner at Black Angus with me, my wife, and my dad, I saw something I had not seen in a long time. There was a commercial advertising Barbie on Blu-ray in 4K. Clearly, this is a movie that is big enough that they have decided it is worth advertising that disc. Now, obviously, these are unique movies, and not every single movie is the biggest movie in the world, but if there is a big enough movie or TV show and it comes out it will be bought by people. People will get excited about it. And even the niche stuff. I saw that discotheque was trending on X shortly after they did their little presentation of titles that are coming out. You know, these are not major titles. Like, we're talking about Lovely Complex. That thing's probably going to be lucky to sell 50,000 copies on Blu-ray. And yet, it's trending because people are excited about it. Now, let's go back to when movies first started coming out, like on VHS. I believe that when it was first coming out on VHS, a lot of companies did not want the idea of people to be able to buy a movie and then not buy it again, because that was the whole thing, theatrical re-releases and television airings. That was their bread and butter. And so they would sell the movies at $80 to $100 a piece, and that's what created Blockbuster. Thank you for Adam Korlick for reminding me of all that. And we're probably going to go back to that, where I don't know if the movies are going to be like $80 again. I really hope not. But there will still be an audience for it, and they'll probably be like Criterion. You know, the movies will be $40, $50, and they won't make millions of copies, but there will be a dedicated base to sell them. Keep in mind, the physical media industry is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's the reason why it's still around, despite the fact that it's slowly dying. I remember watching a documentary on The Godfather, and studio executives were talking about how the movie was too dark. How are people in drive-in theaters going to see it? This is like 1973, I believe. And one of the producers or the cinematographer, I forgot who, mentioned that drive-in theaters were dying. Why are we concerned about drive-in theaters? And the answer was, well, it's because there's still a lot of money to be made in drive-in theaters at the time. They might be dying, but there's money to be made. And it's the same thing here. So, yes, I was bummed to hear that Best Buy would not be selling movies anymore, because honestly, that's where I buy my movies. I bought them a lot over there, and I'm not going to be buying them from them anymore. I'm going to have to go to Walmart or maybe Amazon, because if they're going to sell them and the other guys won't, I don't have much of a choice. But it's not going to go away forever, and I think Best Buy exiting the physical media market, minus the games, probably reflects worse on Best Buy than anything else, because again, we've seen with Sears and we've seen with Maytag and some of these other chains that having a chain of stores that just sells appliances, heck, even Fry sold appliances and they had variety, like, that is not a stable bread and butter winner. Because yeah, my parents went to Fry's, they bought a fridge. It was their first fridge that they bought in 12 years, and they had that fridge for another 9, and then they bought another one. But you know, these are not things that get people to come back into the store very often. They're like one and dones once in a while. So I think the news reflected worse on Best Buy than physical media itself. And by the way, on a side note, if you really want to show just the power of physical media, the fact that Disney is releasing the Marvel series that they made for Disney Plus on physical media in Steelbook editions. There's not even like a standard edition. It's just the Steelbook edition. I think that goes to show how important physical media ultimately still is. And even their CEO, Bob Iger, said that there would be more physical media coming forward. And by the way, as a little hope for people who are Disney fans, I am actually pretty convinced that we will see something akin to the Walt Disney Treasures being released on 4K, because Disney does seem to be remastering some of their vintage content and their shorts and stuff like that. And they released Walt Disney Treasures during the DVD boom, where millions of DVDs were being sold, and they were a limited run of like 65 to 200,000 copies each. Well, guess what? The market's smaller, and as long as the price is right, that 60,000 to 150,000 copies could be really profitable. So I think we will see the Walt Disney Treasures or a similar series come back. That's a total side note, by the way. I don't have any insider information. It's just the stars are aligning perfectly in that regard. With that being said, yeah, it kind of stinks that Best Buy is discontinuing selling movies. I know that for some people, that's one less place for them to get it. But again, you look at Barnes & Noble, they were on their way out. Bookstores were closing, but there was still demand for books. And now they are thriving like they never have before. And even though you see Disney and Warner Brothers and Best Buy and Target saying, hey, it's shrinking sales, we're getting rid of it. You see boutique labels like Arrow, Kino Labor, and Criterion saying we keep getting more and more sales. We've never had so many sales before. And the fact that a big title like Titanic and Oppenheimer will still get people to turn their eyes, and Barbie is a big enough movie that they are advertising that it's on Blu-ray and 4K. Well, I think we can all relax. Obviously, buy what you can and what you want. Don't buy things just to buy them, but like if you really want it, buy it, and things are going to be okay. But with that said, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.